Here we are. Hello, everyone. Ovidio here speaking from Acer EMEA. I'm a network manager at Acer. Glad to have you all today with us and joining this stream. I will start presenting my guest today. It's an honor. Again, I said it, John, I said it multiple times, but it's really an honor to meet you. We have John Capobianco with us, which in Italian will be Giovanni Capobianco. So I'm sure there are people from the Italian community here that your surname found really familiar. John is head of AI and developer relations at Itential, and one of the most recognizable voices intersection in network engineering. Over 25 years of career in IT, he has held senior positions at Cisco, Selector AI, and the Parliament of Canada, which I found really cool when I looked at your profile. I would wish to see how the network will look at the Parliament of Canada. And he will bring us value and a lot of hands-on experience applied in automation. And as I said, when today you search online about automation in network, what should I do? Where should I go? And even the AI suggests whatever John Capobianco is doing. You're automatically being redirected to you somehow. Also, another guest that we have with us is Emanuele Meazzo. He's also a senior manager, however, in our AI in Acer here. He started multiple initiatives, with the hottest project, with the Sophia, that maybe we're going to touch lightly in this stream. The goal of this conversation today with John, having an expert to talk about is the focus is, of course, the network solution and the network engineer path to AI implementation, to AI adoption in his private career, but also in his company, and how we should address that. I will make just a little bit of intro from my scenario about how I see it today. Network engineers started many years ago with the CLI in mind, with the command line for the people that are not network engineers. And it's been clear from the very beginning that the network must be robust, it must stay live all the time, and any issue, it's a problem for productivity. So our goal was to set up, and as we say in Italy, it was like measure twice and cut once. This was about the network engineer. So we were all the time in the lab trying the solution before putting it in production. And sometimes not even in production was working because there was a bug, and then you started all over again. We always been as these technical guys that they come on in some times of the year when there are big changes, and then they stay in the shadow and everything is fine. And what I felt lately when let's say the AI started to take in our lives, the whole IT department, the whole IT infrastructure, I'm sitting on my desk and I look at my developer colleagues here, and they get really excited about the technology, and they show me code on the screen. And look, now I can develop a lot more. I'm so fast now; it corrects automatically. I can just be an orchestrator and just finally control the code at the end. I felt that we as network engineers were staying back a little bit in this part here, because for the simple fact that network has less flexibility in terms of trying things out, especially in a productive environment, you feel that the AI for us is something that I tested the net in a closed environment, like I don't know, GNS3 or a private environment. And then when I'm thinking, okay, how I put this in production is becoming challenging, because you know that it might create impact. So my first question for you, Johnny, today is like, where are the network engineers standing today in the AI wave? Because I have let's say, the European view a little bit with all the challenges that all the countries present here.
I thank you, first of all, for having me. I really appreciate this. An organization such as Acer EMEA, 2 brilliant engineers in their own right. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and have this discussion. So I think that network engineers, I think there's a growing divide. I really do. I think that there's some polarity between pro-AI and anti-AI, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of gray area. It seems that you're either for it or against it, for right or for wrong, or for good reasons or bad reasons. But I think that most network engineers recognize that AI is not, let's say, like network automation, which was a niche and kind of a nice to have. And some organizations invested in automation. A lot of people stayed behind and still did things manually, or they automated portions of the job, but not all of it. I don't think networks can wait 10 years like they did with automation for AI. It is such an impact, and we want networks to be at the table. That's really my biggest concern, is that networks the CTOs or the senior network engineers, they're not being invited into the discussion about AI. They're not being exposed to the tools. They're not being given access to approved API keys or local instances or however you want to think about it. And I want to be very clear that I empathize with the network engineer. I know they're long days. I know it's a difficult job. I know you already alluded to it. When everyone else is working, network engineers are planning. And when people are not working, network engineers are working. Late nights, weekends, long weekends, change windows. Everything touches, the network touches everything. So there's some validity to why the networks may be a little behind. And it's not necessarily about innovation or the hot new craze. It's about stability, and it's about reliability and about availability with the network, right? So how do we bring these two worlds together? The artificial intelligence, the bleeding edge capabilities, new ways of thinking, new ways of approaching it, but still provide that resilience and the reliability and the availability. That's difficult, right? So the network engineers of the world, I don't think that it's about being lazy or about being stupid or about being not capable to learn these things. I think there's competing interests. People are trying to get their certifications. They're trying to learn. Even amongst networking, there's new technologies, VXLAN and EVPNs and BGP. You might spend 10 years learning BGP and still not know everything about BGP. So network engineers are up against it, right? But I think that's how AI can help us. AI can help us learn BGP. It can help us learn these new protocols. It can even do a lot of the mundane, routine exercises, right? So in terms of bringing to your question, how do we bring something from the lab to production? I would suggest that you want to start with read-only activities, right? If the three of us all hired a junior engineer on our team, the first thing I told that network engineer to do is not going to be go make some complicated change. It's going to be to go document the network, update the source of truth, learn the environment, learn the configs, learn the policies. I'm going to do the same thing with an AI. I'm going to say, okay, AI agent or digital coworker, what I want you to do is go out and test the health of my network. Don't change anything. Just go test it or document it or do audits or compliance reports with AI. Another good one is triage. When tickets come in, there's no harm in letting an AI take a shot at it. If you give it read access to certain tools and certain APIs and say to the AI, the users are complaining about the Wi-Fi experience in Houston, for example. Try to tell me why they're having that problem. And let the AI figure it out and give you a recommendation or a possible root cause analysis. Those are read-only. It's just like running show commands at the CLI, except you've got an artificial intelligence that can understand it, can do generative AI against it. And you may say to yourself, I have a really custom specific snowflake network, and the AI is never going to be able to understand it. With different techniques like MCP or RAG, you can actually supplement the AI's base foundational knowledge with your custom bespoke, unique parameters, right? So that's where I sit,
Absolutely, I totally agree. And this is one of the reasons why initially we start with dashboards. And the dashboards, they do the reading and you have them there, right? And it was fun and games for some years, but now you kind of don't even have time for the dashboard anymore because you will like to ask it in natural language when you come in the morning. So tell me what matters, right? Tell me what's going on. Because this is the observability aspect that is definitely gonna bring the benefit here. And this is something that we definitely tested it, and when you look in, especially in that lab part. But I really see it as a three-stage thing. First is the observability. So let's achieve that with the vendors you have, multi-vendors you have, because also this is maybe the capacity of the AI and the MCP servers, because it's allow you to put it all together and put together all the vendors you have and make them talk. You can talk natural language with them instead of having 10 dashboards. But the next step is for me that I'm thinking now is, okay, but when which is really the challenge is, okay, when I'm going to give right mode of the AI. So when is that going to happen? How is this going to look like initially? I'm going to start for, I don't know, one site, two sites, one server. And there is a third, which is maybe futuristic, is reaction. What if the link goes down? What the AI tells me? Does it open a new path to the same destination using a protocol or things like that? So this is the three phases that I see today, John.
I think that's a very good three-phase approach. And I also think it follows with, in the early phases, you're going to have humans in the loop, where the AI is going to prompt for action or prompt for approval or let you know or seek guidance in its next steps. And then we're going to have humans on the loop. We're just watching it and maintaining it like a junior employee. And then humans in the lead, where we're leading that AI to where we want it to go. And I think you're right. How do we cross over from read to write access? When is the right time? What is the right activity? I think it's a tolerance of risk. So let's say if we determine, and this is a really good use of AI, is to maybe point at your ServiceNow catalog and try to identify trends. Try to identify how you resolve the problems of the past to help guide the AI to solve the problems of the future, right? If 9 out of 10 times there's a problem in some site and the resolution is to shut and no shut the port, I think that's pretty low risk. I think it's low risk letting an AI shut and no shut an interface. But again, there's an asterisk there. What if it shuts down the management interface? What if it shuts down the wrong interface? So we need that, the guardrails and something in terms of an open claw or my net claw system, a soul file, an instructions file, a heartbeat file, markdown files guiding it, right? So NetClaw has this principle of never make any changes that will lock a user out of the system, right? So if your agent is very good and you've earned the trust and you've done it in the lab, I think we start to increase the risk. Okay, let it make some right changes. Maybe what about greenfield provisioning, day zero provisioning, zero touch provisioning? I think that's a great use case. Plug the stack in, let the agent gather the information from the source of truth and deploy it to the stack. Other things like source of truth, we mention this a lot, and I'm not going to pick a singular source of truth, but there's Netbox, there's Autobot, there's OpsMill. The big problem there is populating it up front or maintaining it after it's in place. A source of truth is no good if you don't maintain it, if you let it drift, if it's got the wrong information. A source of truth can actually be more harmful than good if it's not maintained and used properly, right? So why not have an agent every day go ahead and check the status of your fleet against the records in your source of truth? And then you have the option to say, okay, I trust the agent enough to reconcile the two. To say, I see this interface on this router and this IP address, but it's not in Netbox or Autobot or InfoHub. Let me push it and let the user know via Slack or via email, hey, just to let you know, I saw a drift between your source of truth and your real source of reality. I've gone ahead and updated these records. I mean, I would really treat it like having a new digital coworker, a new junior staff member, and eventually, yes, a senior staff member after it's earned your trust and you've put in the guardrails and you've seen some proven success, because ultimately it's the human that's going to get fired, right? The company may say, okay, you can't use that agent anymore, but they also may say, listen, this agent did some really bad things, but we can't hold the agent accountable. I can't hold the LLM accountable. So I have to hold the person who wrote the agent accountable, right? And I think that may be that fear and pressure may also be why certain network engineers are reluctant to move into automation or to move into agentic operations.
I mean,
absolutely.
John,
and I'll leave it to Emanuele, because please go ahead.
No, because what John was saying is exactly what I was always thinking. I said this multiple times. So what I always say when I try to explain AI to not technical people is the AI, the agent, is like your new intern, which you can have him do a lot of things. This new intern, technically speaking, is even better than you, but he has no idea of the context where he is operating. So he can do anything. He can write all the best code in whichever language you want, but is like a talented child. Say this child can write any code, can configure your BGP, can do whatever he wants. But if you let it free, it's like you could get in trouble. So I see that the difficulty here, the difficulty in trying to contain this new technology is not more on the technical part. Oh, how do I write this? Because it's better than me in writing code nowadays. It's better than 99% of developers in writing the actual code. But it's how can we harness this agent in order to not have it create all the issues that you created? Because exactly as you said, if this goes wrong, then it's my fault. I don't want it. So that's why it was like perfect.
So, Emmanuel, would you believe that this is an HR problem more than a technical problem at this point?
Not 100% HR, I won't say, but it is more like a managing problem rather than. And I don't say HR because the H in HR stands for human.
Human, so, yeah, true.
The agent, not yet human, who knows? But yeah, it's more giving some very rigid barriers for this technology to act on. And what you said at the beginning, it was totally perfect. So whenever you got one intern, so when I first joined Acer years ago, I didn't know anything. Technically, I was very good, but I didn't know anything. What was the first job that my manager years ago gave me? Go document the data warehouse. Go document everything. Document the ETL, document everything. So I got all the information. And then after I had all the information, I was able to do changes, modification, rewrite the ETL, rewrite the table, migrate everything to the cloud, etc. But the first step was understanding what was going on, which is a critical step with the LLMs, because we know LLMs know everything except your particular company, because already in companies, the issue is outside, you have all the knowledge of the humanity. You go into a specific company, any company is like a totally different world, and knowledge is culture. So you need to be inside. So there is this issue that they see with data and having the information and documenting everything and the process. And yet, even the best companies, not everything is documented. Not everything is written, not everything is in paper. So you still have to bridge this gap. And this, from what I see, is the most difficult step. Because the AI, even if you get to AGI, it's the same thing. The AI can do anything a man can do. Still, if you put it in a company, first day, it doesn't know anything. Even if it's the best person in the world with all the knowledge of the universe, still, that company is outside the knowledge of humanity. It's private knowledge that you need to extract somehow. So everything checks out.
Yeah, I really that's very well said.
Yeah, it really sounds like this is on the last part you said, Manuel and John. This is the last chance we had to survive. Is actually being the managers of this AI when it's inside the company, and do the interpretation from the executives to the necessity and translate that to AI and stay together. And
well,
on the security aspect,
it's if you tell AI, listen, let's solve war. I don't want any more war on Earth, and the AI says, easy, we'll get rid of all the humans.
Good.
So we got to be really careful with this stuff, right?
Yeah. This reminds me, yesterday I was writing some code. I was doing a unit test. It was failing. And he say, okay, let's solve this issue with the test. And he say, okay, yes, easy. Let me add ignore this error. Oh, now it's fine. He said, chill. Yeah, Claude, please stop. Resolve the root cause. Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was working on an agent for my Cisco Live demos, and prompt engineering is so important. The words we use and how we say it. Like you said, it's almost like that 3-year-old child who's going to take you quite literally, right? So I said something to the effect of, go ahead and grab the IP addresses off of this device and then populate them in NetBox. And there was a hiccup. It couldn't connect to the network device, so it just made up a bunch of IP addresses and put them into NetBox, right? So through prompt engineering, I had to say, and do not make up the data, right? Don't just make up the data, use real data. So just by saying those couple keywords, do not make up the data, the outcome was dramatically different.
This aspect here recalls me the challenges and we have when we make our choices in terms of network solutions that we take on. Right? And it's really connected with the aspect of you go with the vendor, or how much customized you stay, how much vendor you stay. And sometimes, John, you go with the vendor because vendor, sometimes it comes as an insurance a little bit, right? It takes away that pressure from you as a network engineer that, okay, I have to develop a solution, for example, for the, connectivity to the cloud, and I'm working in with Cisco, so I will work with the engineers. We come up with a solution. They approve the design. You do this. You have that approval seal that it's going to stand there and work. And I see that as a friction point that will happen now. It's happening right now with AI, because one thing when you test it, it's in the lab and it's fun and it works and all that, and then you have a look at it later on, you add more features. But when it's about to go to production, it's hard for network engineers to take that full responsibility on themselves. And sometimes they make the blue pill, red pill thing. They make the choice to go with the vendor because in case things go wrong, a vendor will be responsible ultimately. I think, what's your take on this one? How, as a network engineers, should we do a hybrid situation, just abandon and say, oh, the vendor will take care of everything, I just have to manage the business part at this point?
This had to be beaten into me, and I really had to be shown the way from management and my leadership, particularly when I was at Parliament. I really wanted to save Canadians money. I wanted to do it all myself and my team, DIY, everything. We can build the Ansible, we can build the Python, we can build the solutions. Yes, we still need hardware, right? We still need routers and switches and firewalls and load balancers. But beyond the hardware, I was a firm believer in DIY and just doing it all ourselves. However, I could see over time as I matured and I grew up a little bit, my leadership's position of they wanted a throat to choke. I said, listen, when there's a priority one call and the network is not working, right, we need someone to be able to escalate to, and we'll pay for that as a service, pay for high touch service or whatever, the extra support layers. We want to be able to tell the vendor that we've built our network based on their approved, validated designs. So that's one thing you can do as a network engineer, is to try to stick to validated designs from the vendors to take a little pressure off yourself, and then you can reference the validated design. We are following the validated design, and yet we are still having this problem. Multi-vendor, it starts to get even more challenging when different components in the path, you now need different vendor support and be able to coordinate amongst them. But I think it's a hybrid. I still think that there's a place for, even if you get something, let's say an SDN, a software-defined networking controller, let's say it's an APIC in the data center, right? You still are going to have DIY solutions, scripts and playbooks and API calls against that controller. So you're never going to get away from 100% vendor or 100% DIY. You're going to have to find a comfortable balance and pick your battles, right? If the controller can do that thing out of the box, then don't have your team build that solution. Now, I think software-defined networking is going to have a resurgence now that MCP is here, now that natural language is here. For years, the industry tried to give network engineers software controllers, a centralized controller, and you configure the controller, and the controller pushes the config down to the rest of the devices, right? But that either meant doing it all through a GUI, through panes of glass and clicking menus and memorizing menus, or programmatically through REST APIs or through Python scripts or Terraform. But that's why SDN didn't take off. Not because SDN itself is a bad idea, but because most network engineers can't code and didn't learn how to code and didn't learn how to automate, right? So it looks like SDN was a letdown when in fact, it was the interface into that controller. But now I just read this morning, NSO from Cisco has an MCP server. So now I can have my NSO controller and I can talk to that controller and it can do all the things downstream to the networks. So I think it's going to change. I think things are going to shift to natural language, shift to MCP, which means that these controllers are going to become more popular again.
So in a few words, your advice will be every time we speak with a vendor right now for our next solution, ask them for SCP. Do you have a capability that we can attach?
You got it. And MCP is approaching 2 years old. There's no reason why companies or solutions shouldn't have MCP capability. I think the industry's a little behind. Some vendors were really early and had MCPs very early. Right now, I think a lot of people are catching up and introducing MCP because they want to be able to build agents, and those agents can interface with their platforms via MCP instead of REST API. There's some great conversation here too, Sandro. I just want to call out, Sandro in the chat has made some pretty good points here. Sandro, I agree with everything that you're saying here, that the silos hurt and that no one really knows what the network is because it's so siloed in different buckets and different forms of ownership. So you're right. The ownership of that infrastructure is the ownership of the future. One thing I just want to add, and I know it's a little controversial, but this has stuck with me. I read this thing about if you're not at the AI table, then you're on the AI menu, right? So I think network engineers really need to stand up and vocalize, tell your leadership, I want to be part of the AI strategy. I want to be part of the AI operations. I want to help and I want to learn. I'll be a junior. I'll do whatever it takes. But there's massive opportunities in AI for networking and networking for AI, right? We talked a little bit earlier about companies, particularly where you guys are in Europe, on-prem GPUs and on-prem LLMs is almost, and Emmanuel, you have some opinions about this, and I do as well.
Yeah.
But if you're going to host GPUs on-prem, or if you're going to fine-tune models, or even train your own foundational model, now you need to have networking for AI skills.
Yep.
How to build Rocky V2 or InfiniBand fabric on the back end, right? How to get, because I was reading that one packet drop leads to something like a 70% degradation in training because it's any-to-any traffic. All those GPUs have to be lossless. So the network becomes super important. If you lose a packet, all those GPUs now need to resynchronize, right? And think of the power and the cooling and the training and the money involved, right?
No, absolutely. I just shared something similar to a video a couple of weeks ago because there is a new paper by OpenAI which was all about network because they had to reinvent network from scratch. And the network infrastructure is so important now with the type of training and inference that they have to do, that they have to figure out something absolutely crazy to get on with it. Also, yesterday I followed the Google I/O announcement. And basically they said that with the new TPU, the generation 8, now they're able to do distributed training and inference across data center. So they haven't talked explicitly, but I can just imagine the type of network necessary to do inference and training across different regions. There will be something absolutely crazy. One thing is connecting each of those things in the same data center, which is already crazy stuff. Another thing is connect those data centers with each other and maintain the level of performance required by AI training and inference, because those things are absolutely limited by bandwidth. So if you lose a packet, as you say, you're done. You have to start from scratch because all the latent space of the AI, whenever it's thinking, let's say, it needs to be absolutely coherent and all the weights need to be accessed over and over in order to actually do the inference. And if you get it wrong, you are completely screwed. So not only AI for network in the normal, let's say, everyday life of the network engineer, but also the network is a core item of the AI itself. Without this powerful network, without this coordination, low latency between GPUs and servers and regions and whatever between all of this, we wouldn't have what we have today. So it's a network sandwich, what we have. Yeah.
For me, it really looks like
point.
it's bringing network to be exciting again, because I felt that in terms of performance, John, we had great technologies until AI that were there for many years, and nobody Nobody really complained these last years about performance and so on. And now with this AI, it's really introducing, and we can see how the vendors are responding with that. Cisco itself, or Disco Silicon, that. So they are really putting money to be part of that table.
Well, there was a wave of the popularity of the cloud pulled a lot of talent out of networks and steered a lot of junior people to want to do cloud. And then security became a very exciting career and topic, and a lot of people started to pursue security. And network fell off as a cool job, as a hot topic for 10 or 15 years when things stabilized. Wi-Fi was cool, voice over IP was cool. Some of the software-defined networking was pretty cool. The increase of speeds up to 800 gig to 1.2 terabytes. So I think, though, that now is a reinvigoration. Now the network has become extremely important again for both sides. One, the networking for AI, for the people with GPUs and big data centers. Look at all the data centers cropping up around the world, or in North America specifically. Who's going to connect all those switch ports? Who's going to configure all those top-of-rack devices? Automation, yes, but there's still going to be teams of networking people that do that. So networking is still, I know that there's been some layoffs and impact just this week alone, but I think it's a good place to be right now, is in the network. If you're open-minded, if you're taking on, everything's changed. The way software is written, you see it out on the social networks every day, these major companies saying, we don't write code anymore. I'd like to get to the infrastructure equivalent of that, where we don't handcraft configurations anymore. The CLI becomes less important to us. We express our intent in human language. We augment it with systems that we've talked about, and the configuration is a solved problem, right?
Absolutely. And I will connect with this for a simple question. If today, maybe even in this call, there are some local ITs or IT specialists that are getting interested into network, but now, of course, they are being so much influenced by all the news about the AI. And how a network admin should start today his journey? It's still valid, the classic path that we had back in the day of, look, get a CCNA, or start something, a certification more agnostic. So still study on the books a little bit, or throw the book away and just start testing in the lab with the AI. You don't need to know. The information is not valid, is not important anymore. Today is how you put things together. What's your take on a junior network engineer today? I'm really curious.
I think junior network engineers, obviously they're the future, right? So I think there's going to be more of them, not less of them. I really do. I don't think that AI is going to replace junior network engineers in the short to medium term, right? Meaning the next 3 to 5 years, we're still going to have plenty of junior engineers, a lot more of them, I think, to support these data centers, to support enterprises' growth in AI, to support this new technology boom and period of time. But I think the juniors are going to change in that they're going to be interfacing with agents more than humans. They're going to learn from agents. They're going to learn from agents that our senior developers build. And they may, I think they will know they're working with an artificial intelligence. But it also, I think a junior can be accelerated. Back in my day, 25 years ago, we had to buy lab equipment, physical equipment. We had to read tons of books and do tons of labs. I think the path to getting experience and getting exposure and getting your certifications, if that's what you're still pursuing, becomes easier with artificial intelligence, right? I'm studying for my CCNA. Give me 25 flashcards. Make sure they're unique. Do not draw from any previous flashcards you've made me, right? Things like that. If humans use it the right way, I think it can augment the junior. But you still need experience in the field. You still need the foundational knowledge. You still need to pursue your certifications. I think the key here is for people in our generation, the generation currently at senior and above levels, that we don't pull the ladder up behind us, that we actually push the ladder back down and make it easier for people to climb with agents, with RAG, with MCP. Now, does a junior network engineer, are they better or worse if they're using MCP and using natural language to configure their networks? I see it as an abstraction layer. I don't think that they're less quality because they don't have every CLI command memorized. Yeah. It's about the outcome. Does the network get built? Is the network stable? And the other thing is, much like accounting, I think that networks and network engineers can elevate their positions into roles like strategic roles, direction roles, governance roles, investment roles, thinking about the future of the business and bringing business value to the network and vice versa, instead of cranking out CLI commands, right? We're very intelligent people. We're not just robots that just do the repetitive work over and over again. Some people used to call us the plumbers when I was at Parliament. The application folks used to call the network folks the plumbers. And it was very mean, and it was mean-spirited to hear, because you're developing apps and I'm plugging in wires and configuring routers, I'm just a plumber, right? But I understand what they're after. The network they want it to be a commodity. They want it to be like hot water faucets or toilets or electricity or phones. They just want their email, right? They just want to get to their website. They just want to answer their Slack message. They don't care what protocols or wires or speeds or bandwidth or jitter. That's all you nerds figure that out, right? So if agents can get us there, and if agents can take the pressure off the network, where my leadership can talk to an agent and the agent can talk to the expert to solve the problem, instead of these war rooms and we pull in 30 people into a Slack channel and I'm doing PCAPs and captures and you get those logs, I'll get these logs, let's try to figure it out. I think those days they're archaic, right? It never should have been that hard.
Potentially they will go away at some point, because today I really see this thing that you described, and I will add that you have these camps of network engineers that if they pull out their CLI, they feel like God mode. And when you work with orchestrator, or you even talk about AI to be applied there and ask a natural language, how is the interface, giving me the latest status of the interface instead of doing the actual command, they feel themselves like, oh, we are in CLI, we are God mode. You just don't know what's going on in the background and you're just playing around. So there is still this friction. I think at some point it will go away when the new generations will come in and they will accept it just like another layer of language. So essentially they will just accept it. It's just another language to conversate instead of studying the IXOS or an XOS, and they will start to see the beauty of this and focus more maybe on the purpose of what you're trying to do, rather than just, oh, guess what, I changed my company now I have to work with HPE, or now I have to work with Fortinet, and they are completely different language and all that. So then you start to have to translate. In fact, I remember a colleague then, when he switched from Cisco to Huawei, he had to learn completely and translate even if he was a CCIE in Cisco, he had to completely translate to Huawei language and then start to study that. And I don't think this is cool. I think it's also adds friction in the beginning. It might be boring, because ideally you will want to jump, okay, Huawei, they must have maybe different cool protocols and how they work, more efficient and all that. But I want to skip the part of how to actually talk with these devices.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I always say to people here, so not necessarily IT, but also business people very far removed from everything, is with AI, I want you to do more of your high value job. In my case, it's mostly, I don't want you to be copying and pasting data from one Excel file to the other, or saving this document and then changing this, or creating this presentation, whatever. I want you to use your expertise, because you're an expert in this business part, in sales and marketing and supply chain or whatever. And I want you to concentrate on the value that you can bring to the company, not in the technicality. So it can be transferred for your network guys. I don't need you to maintain the IP table in an Excel file like you did 20 years ago. Now it's automated. You can ask the agent. I don't need you to learn the CLI for one or the other, or Huawei, HP, or whatever terminal you have. I want you to high level, give the value to the company. What does the company need? High-speed networking, high throughput, low latency, more reliability, be more resilient. Okay, that's your job. Your job is not typing on the command line and getting whatever output and then doing something. Your job is your outcome. So with AI, I always try to say to people, let me help you by using AI to remove the trivial part. Because if something can be done by AI, it can be done by anything, no? So why would you do it? It's boring. Take it away, concentrate, talk with AI, this pilot, just do it. Give me the high value, give me more sales, more shipments, less cost, whatever. In your case, give me more performance, more cost optimization, more whatever need you to give me. And that's the message that I always send when I try to talk about AI and whatever. So I say it's not magic, but remove the things that are not really your job, because copying and pasting data is not your job. Your job is evaluating and deciding. Same things goes for network. Your job is evaluating, deciding, keeping everything up and running. That's everything you need to do. How? Who cares? If it's easier, you do it better. Fine. Like we didn't have calculators 70 years ago, you have to do it on paper, and now you have in your pocket all the time. Better. You can do more calculations. Fine.
I know. I think you've really touched on something there, though. But this touches human emotion. Yeah. Someone who's done the CLI for 15 years, maybe they're a CCIE, maybe they've established their own identity around the CLI and around their certifications and around being an expert in these things. Suddenly it's not that they're not needed, but they're needed to do different things. The expectation has changed, right? And that's hard. That's touching emotional, human psyche type issues, right? So I understand the reluctance. It's not like I'm dumbfounded. I don't get it. I don't know why everyone isn't doing it this way. I know that this is a journey for every individual. I said that there's a bit, a 0 to a 1 in people's brains with AI. And people can go from a 0 very staunchly against AI for years. I've seen this in person. Someone there against AI, they see a demo, they read an article, they see a video, they try it themselves, and the bit flips, and now suddenly they are AI enthusiasts. They're excited about it. They see it. So there's a tangible thing here. So if you're still listening and wondering why are these guys so excited about this? Why has John actually changed his career from focusing on networks to focusing on AI? I think you just need to go beyond. Some people will chat with ChatGPT for 5 or 10 minutes and then dismiss AI completely. I think that's missing it. I think that's slightly missing it. Asking why is the sky blue? How many R's are there in strawberry? Trying to fool the AI and prove that you're smarter than it. I don't know what you're accomplishing, right? Try to, John's got a PyETS MCP that will talk to Cisco networks. I'm going to install the MCP in Copilot, and I'm going to ask it how many interfaces are shut on this device. Something tangible, something real, right? Now think about what that used to be. Find the right device, find the credentials, sign in, enter config mode, or enter whatever mode. Run the show command, copy the screen, put it into Notepad, do your evaluation. If you're still doing it that way, and all I have to do is say how many IP addresses do I have on this device, I have a competitive advantage over you, period. Yeah. Something that's taking you 15 or 30 minutes to do, and it takes me less than a minute to do, that is dangerous for you if you're still doing it the old way, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's a cultural thing also, because very quickly, I think people need to understand that going to the CLI in config mode, show, copy, paste, whatever, that's not your job. That's a tool for your job. And now a better tool exists. Like I said to business people that love Excel, your job is not Excel. Is not copying and pasting data or creating this or that. Your job is more sales, more conversion, more customer, whatever it is your job. That is the job. The tool is irrelevant. So I am one that I've always used a technology for a lot of years. So for example, I'm an expert in SQL Server. I did conferences all over the world. I know everything. I know how to optimize a query down to the SQL operating system level and the page level, the bytes that you have to switch in order to make the page go faster. But nowadays, it don't need it because I'm using different technology for whatever I'm doing right now. It's fine. The outcome is I'm doing good because I'm here in this company working on an interesting project. I have all of these in my backpack that I can carry with me. Maybe one day I will use it again. Okay. But I know that optimizing a query for whatever, that's not my job. It is a tool that I have to achieve to get to the outcome. Why was I optimizing the query 10 years ago? To make the ATL go faster. Why did the ATL need to go faster? Because the business needs the data before, needs the data earlier. Why do the business need the data earlier? Because the earlier they get the data, the faster decision they can take. So we have to go back and try to understand why are we doing such things. My network engineer, why are you checking on the CLI for that particular thing? Try to go up a level and understand that it is, at the end of the day, there is a business need for this. Because all of the, unless it's your home network and you're playing with your own switches at home, whatever, you play, you do whatever you like. But if you are doing enterprise, it's a business. If it's a business, somewhere, somebody is to make the money to make the business run. And so whatever you're doing at any time means something in order to make this business work. And this is something that people at every level needs to understand, because otherwise they are in their own box. I have to use my own CLI, I have to use this. And when some better tools comes along, they don't realize that they can do even more for the business itself. So maybe it's like a cultural thing still.
Yeah, I don't know. I especially around model context protocol. I've been trying to tell people, think of SMTP for email. Think of HTTP for websites. Think of those two protocols alone. How many emails have humans sent in the last 35 years since SMTP? Probably in the trillions, right?
Too many.
Or how many websites have clicks on websites? How many visits on websites have there been since 1996 or 94 or whatever? Into the trillions, right? Or hundreds of billions. MCP is going to, and it's already started. We see it happening. That protocol is going to be as important, or if not more important, than the protocols of the 90s when the World Wide Web came out, right? I just was reading yesterday, they've added MCP tunnel. So it has VPN-like capabilities where you can have an MCP on your internal network that external people can call. So it's progressing. It's moving very fast. I'm really excited about MCP tunnel.
Sounds pretty cool because
we've got about 8 minutes to go here. We're going to start the Q&A session soon. Yeah, so if anyone has Q&A questions, we do have the live chat open here. We'll be here a couple more minutes to answer some questions.
I think I will iterate with what we said right now, and I agree with everything, but I think I see it as 50% of the job. And I have a first question for you, John, from this Q&A is how we convince security to say, okay, guys, yes, go do this. I think somebody from our security team it's on this podcast.
Fine. To be fair, I want to mention a couple of tools specifically for MCP. So Cisco has something called Defense Claw, and they also have a Cisco MCP scanner, a separate tool. So you can bring the reports of your scanned MCPs to your security team. Let them know that you've scanned it with Cisco official security tools for MCP, and that the MCP you're looking at is clean and healthy. That may give them a little bit more of a comfort, warm and fuzzy feeling. The other thing is for agents, I know that there's platforms like Itential. We have governance in RBAC and AAA. There's OpenShell from NVIDIA, which is a sandboxing technique where your agent runs inside of a sandbox, so it doesn't have access to your root file system or your network connections. And it's also isolated in a sandbox environment. So there are emerging approaches to deal with the security. Yeah, it's a really good point, Ovidio.
Yeah, no, it's something that when we start testing in the lab, it's always there in the back of your head. Okay, I might start push this in production, but when you know all the process you go through, and I'm talking also from the perspective when you work for the customer, final customer company like we are here. I don't want to even think about people that work in consultant and then maybe they connect to 20 different customers and maybe they connect on a jump server and do things. Those are entirely different challenges by themselves, actually. Okay. So that's the Q. I think we actually applied for something of the Q&A questions. If there are not many more, I just want to say a couple of things about John for everyone that's here in the meet. You can find John on his LinkedIn. He was very available to speak with us today and sit with us today without knowing much about me personally, about Emanuele. I'm really thankful to John. You can reach him on LinkedIn, on his website. He has a lot of open source information available there. And from my side, I already started to share to my team to your website as a reference to build a project in the Q3 and Q4 of automation in MCP. So I will assign actually this to the team to start that internally in that observability aspect of initially, of course. We want to get that phase in. And I just want to make a recap. So we started by saying that network engineers still have friction today, and definitely they are a bit in a challenge, adoption of AI compared to developers. But this is exciting times that we should take over, because otherwise I really suspect that at some point we're all going to accept AI in our lives. And these fears about where it's located or where it's not located, they're going to go away eventually, because we're going to accept them like universal. And then you will find out that we missed a lot in this progress. I really hope everyone got some excitement from here and they will start to adopt it in their career. And let's see if there is a question. Oh, I think somebody.
Our security agreed with the sandboxing.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we can accept also internal.
Well, I want to thank everyone involved in setting this up and having me here today. I can't believe I'm talking to people from Acer and MIA. This is really exciting to me. And if anyone's just being shy or has something comes up later, just connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got a bunch of open source projects. I've got 60 hours of AI video related to network automation on my YouTube. And I just want it to be positive. I don't think we talked about much negative impact here today. I know that it's easy to go on a podcast and talk about how AI is going to take your job and stuff. I'm really glad the focus here was AI augmenting your job and making your life better. It's really what technology is about. I could pick up an axe and go to my yard and cut down that tree. I could do that. Or I could pull the chainsaw out and cut down the tree with the latest technology. Now, is there more risk with the chainsaw? Could I hurt myself? Is it more dangerous than the axe? Yes, but with the right equipment, the right guardrails, I read the book, I do the training, right? I use some common sense. I don't fear using the chainsaw, right? Or I have a healthy respect for the fact that I could cut my hand off with the chainsaw a lot easier than the axe, right? Yeah. Technology moves forward, and it's about being a technologist. And if this doesn't excite you, I'm really sorry to say, but there's not going to be less AI tomorrow than today. There's going to be more of it, right? So if this is really upsetting you, you really should maybe sit down with your manager or your partner or your family and express yourself. Just talk about it. Talk about what's holding you back. Talk about your fear. Talk about the uncertainty, right? But at some point, you either need to get on the train or maybe find a job farming or doing something different. Go sell used cars or something. I don't know. Because AI is here and it's not going anywhere.
Yep. But also farming is not that safe, because I saw a lot of AI-based processing, counting cows and managing the farm. So nobody's safe.
I was going to say, you may need to go to you may have to look really hard to find a vertical that does not have AI. You're right. Thank you again for having me. And
John, thank you so much. I'm honored for the valuable conversation. Grazie.
Grazie, John.
It was a pleasure, John.
All right, you guys take care of yourselves. Maybe in 6 months we'll have a new conversation, okay?
Absolutely. Big pleasure. Absolutely. So we can track some progress wherever we stand.
Yeah, we'll see how we're doing. All right, thanks everyone. Take care.
Have a nice one.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.